From On This, we're joined by Steve Keen in Bangkok. He's a visiting scholar at the University of Amsterdam. Professor, thank you for your time. So we know fertilizers are incredibly important for expedient and, pest-free produce. And as we just heard in Christina's report, South Africa produces 60% of its wheat, which could fall by as much as 6% this year. Can you help us understand what kind of economic impact 6% would make?
Well, as the world produces about 30% more food than it actually is consumed by people. So in one sense, there's a buffer there that can enable a 6% fall to be absorbed. But I think that's at the very bottom end of the scale of decline that's feasible, given the Strait of Hormuz closure and the impact upon global fertilizer supplies. For example, I saw just yesterday that given the price alone, Australian wheat farmers have apparently only planted 1/2 of the usual acreage they do. Now, Australia normally exports 7 times the amount of food that it produces. This now means effectively, at least with wheat, 3.5 times. That is going to cause a major decline in supply on wheat on global markets, added to everything else in South Africa. Because this is having impact on every major producer on the planet, then we're going to see potentially a substantial fall in food output, and we will quite likely see famines scattered all over the planet for areas where that means there's not sufficient food for the population.
Interesting points there, Professor. You know, some would argue that fertilizers are not healthy for us. They harm the soil, they harm the environment. Do you see this fertilizer setback as a good thing in any context and one that could prompt a faster transition to climate-friendly alternatives?
Well, and the people don't realise the extent of our reliance upon artificial fertilisers. The estimates I've seen, again from agronomists rather than my own knowledge, is that if we didn't have the fertilisers we create using petroleum inputs, then the population of the planet could support it be between 1 and 2 billion people. Now, that means if this happens suddenly, you have 3/4 of the world's population starving, which of course is unthinkable and unacceptable. So even though it would be better to move to more sustainable sources, there's an enormous gap to fill, far larger than most people realise. And equally, to do that takes time, even getting farmers to learn different techniques, let alone providing the physical infrastructure to deliver different services. So yes, it is a useful wake-up, I think, in the same sense that because the oil's not flowing through the Strait of Hormuz, people are now looking at electric as a way of guaranteeing energy supplies, because we used to think, the saying used to be that the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. Well, now we can also say the Strait of Hormuz doesn't always flow. And in that situation, that's encouraging people to do what we should have done 30 or 40 years ago, and that's move to less carbon-based energy systems. But it's still very, very late to get a wake-up call.
Indeed. Great points again, Professor. Nice chatting with you. Have a great day.